Last week I spoke to the new federal member for the Central Queensland seat of Flynn, a rural electorate, Colin Boyce. He was very impressive, very down to earth, and what we love on this program, not woke and very common sense. Remember, as I told you, he was the state member for Callide in the Queensland Parliament. Now, this is big stuff and a big issue in this country. He got onto the front foot immediately as a candidate, which is exactly what the coalition should be doing now. And Colin Boyce argued that a net zero emission target would entrench Australia. We've really got to understand this, because I'll tell you what, we're all in it and we're all going to suffer. He said would entrench Australia into a lower standard of living, that it would be people in regional areas who would bear the brunt of it, although people all over Australia will cop it. We're seeing that already. His electorate's dominated by emissions-heavy mining and agriculture. Agriculture never mentioned by Bowen as a victim of Labor policy, although, as I've already said to you, now we're into the methane stuff and we're going to sort of measure the carbon dioxide emissions every time an animal breaks wind. Anyway, in Colin Boyce's electorate, mining and agriculture are the two biggest employers. And Colin Boyce, the new federal member for Flynn, says a net zero policy would put an end to the coal-fired power station that is needed to power Gladstone's gas plants and alumina refineries. Colin Boyce is also a farmer. He said bluntly, if we walk away from affordable coal-fired power, we are walking away from jobs. Now, I spoke last week to Colin about his outstanding maiden speech, where Colin Boyce issued a warning to the wider electorate of Australia, and I quote him, I say this, he said, ordinary Australian people require and deserve the basics of life, food security, water security, energy security and national security, unquote. Colin Boyce joins me. Colin, thank you for your time. Good to have you back talking common sense. Just to put our viewers in the picture, your electorate is twice as big as Tasmania, 132,000 square kilometres, 3 coal-fired power stations, Stanwell, Callide and Gladstone, 15 large coal mines producing 90 million tonnes of coking and thermal coal this year, a CSG gas industry producing 25 million tonnes of LNG exported to the world. What happens to all this under Labor's net zero policy?
Well, good evening, Alan, and it's great to join you once again. And that's a very good question, and that's something that every Australian should be asking themselves. Where on earth are we going with the madness of this energy policy of Mr Albanese and Mr Bowen? Look what's happening in Europe and what's unfolding right there, right now. Germany, the UK are all in an energy crisis, all because they've exposed their national security on the madness of renewables over the last 15 years that just simply cannot produce reliable and affordable power.
100%, 100%. Now, your Gladstone is home to Rio Tinto, Boyne Island alumina smelter, the Yarwun alumina refinery, the QAL refinery, one of the world's largest. I mean, how do you power these outfits?
Well, you've got to have reliable baseload power to do it. And the reality is that solar panels and wind turbines cannot provide frequent, reliable power. They just can't do it. It has been proven everywhere. They are just simply not capable of providing 24/7 power to run heavy industry, alumina smelters, alumina refineries and so forth. It's right there in front of everybody. Yet here we are with a federal government that insists on closing down coal-fired power stations, on proposing to close down both the coal industry and the gas industry. What on earth are we going to use for power?
Absolutely. Now, Gladstone, I might say to viewers, I believe, and that's the reason I'm speaking to Colin Boyce, and we'll speak to him often until people begin to understand. This is virtually a metaphor of the problem, because Gladstone is the world's fourth largest coal exporting terminal. There's a huge agricultural sector around Gladstone producing food and fibre, not for us, for the world, and heavy engineering and a transport sector of road, rail and shipping. So basically, Colin, your electorate is an economic powerhouse that generates the wealth of Australia, but under Labor's energy policy, you will have no power.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality of it, Alan, is that places like Central Queensland, and particularly my electorate of Flynn, as you've pointed out, is the economic engine room of Australia. The gas industry, the coal industry, heavy engineering, agriculture, all of these things are what generates income for the economy of Australia. Every time a boat leaves the port of Gladstone, it either full of coal, full of gas, alumina, Gladstone's a multi-commodity shipping port. That's what generates the income for Australia. That's what pays for schools. That's what pays for our roads and our bridges and the wages of our public servants, our hospitals, our nurses, our doctors. If we are proposing to shut down these industries, how on earth are we going to generate an income to afford, the lifestyles that most Australians enjoy?
Absolutely. And for those out there who say, and the many in the Liberal Party, these wets like Birmingham and co, it was a climate change election and we've got to start changing our policy. We've got to get closer to Labor on climate change or we're going to lose votes. Well, the people in the centre of it, at the vortex of this, in Collins' electorate, they know what this is all about and they voted for this bloke overwhelmingly. The Greens hardly got a vote in the place. So, I mean, there's been no explanation, Colin, as to what net zero legislation will have on people's lives. But I have a concern here. I mean, where is the coalition, your coalition, firmly and openly opposing this nonsense?
Well, absolutely, Alan, and the whole point is that what becomes of people's futures, what becomes of their jobs. Here I am trying to lobby my colleagues as well as lobby the federal government to answer these simple questions. What becomes of the future of these people's jobs?
I mean, in your electorate, almost everyone in your electorate is connected to agriculture, mining resources, heavy industry, power generation and transport. I mean, the Central Highlands Regional Council, which is based in Emerald, derives approximately half its rate revenue from the coal and resource sector. Now, Bowen wants to see the demise of coal and gas industries. Where does the revenue come from just for your local government?
Well, correct, absolutely correct. And that's absolutely right. Half of the revenue of the Central Highlands Regional Council comes from the mining and resource sector. If we're not going to have a mining and resource sector, there's no rate revenue. Therefore, you've got no council. So please answer that one, Mr. Bowen.
Yeah,
how is a large regional supposed to derive an income? Somebody in Sydney, please answer that question.
I agree with you. That's why you're on this program.
I'm at a loss.
That's why I'm talking to you. I'm at a loss too. I mean, as you brilliantly say, and all this is based on computer modelling, and yet when you look at climate, atmospheric and ocean temperature models over the last decades, all have been checked with actual measurements and all the predictions have been wrong. I mean, you said in that maiden speech, this is Colin Boyce, quote, "It's preposterous to suggest that computer models can predict the climate future when input data and parameters are manipulated, flawed and wrong, rubbish in, rubbish out." Well, I mean, Morrison joined 25,000 world leaders and bureaucrats in Glasgow and nodded agreement with all this rubbish.
I would suggest that's pious virtue signalling, what I said in my speech, I stand by that. How can you possibly predict the future based on modelling when it doesn't collate with what actually happens in real time?
Yeah.
Recently there was some Italian scientists that have stated categorically that there isn't a greater incidence of bushfires or floods or high temperatures or low temperatures. There is no trend. There is no climate emergency. And I'll say that again, there is no climate emergency.
Correct, and I'll say it again too. And we've spoken to any number of people who confirm that. Michael Schellenberger, Bjorn Lomborg. You see, Merkel was the Chancellor, the renewable energy queen of Germany. Okay, Russia turns off the gas. Germany is now on its economic knees. No nuclear, no coal. Merkel, unwanted and unheard of. They phased out coal-fired power and nuclear. But as I talk to you, Colin, on this day, the demand worldwide for coal, gas and petroleum is increasing every year. And as you brilliantly said in that maiden speech, I don't hear anyone asking for more wind turbines or solar panels. They're asking for more coal, they're asking for more gas, they're asking for more nuclear. I don't hear anyone saying, oh, more wind turbines or solar panels.
Correct, Alan. And as I say, Germany right now is revamping its coal-fired power stations. They're facing a bitterly cold winter, I believe, over there, and the need for reliable and affordable energy. Everybody's going back to coal-fired power stations.
Absolutely. And
how often do you see on media outlets the world is turning away from fossil fuels? What a load of rubbish! We've never seen the demand for coal and gas and petroleum products higher than it's been now.
No. And Europe is abandoning, as you and I speak, Europe's abandoning, as you said, with the winter coming, net zero. And as you say, many see the commitments made at Glasgow just virtue signalling, unrealistic, unachievable by all this mob who fly in in their planes. They're all millionaires, billionaires. They can afford it no matter what the price of energy is. I mean, I'm just asking you, finally, has the opposition, though, learnt the lessons from Europe? And if so, what are they learning?
Well, Alan, I want to have the Gladstone conference, not the Glasgow conference. We want the Gladstone conference, and we'll get 25,000 bureaucrats into Gladstone, and we'll show them just exactly what happens in Gladstone and how we generate income for one of the greatest nations on the planet.
Good on you. Great to talk to you. You keep at it. We'll keep at it. You'll be a welcome guest on this program anytime, because when you and I are sick of saying it, everyone's going to start hearing it. And we've got to educate some of these politicians. But I don't think any of them read, and I don't think they listen. I'm glad if I know. I'm buggered if I know what we put them there for. But Colin, you're a gem. Good to talk to you. Thank you for that. There is Colin Boyce. How good is that?
Thank you so much, Alan.
And just check. You can check his maiden speech. Give it to the kids to read, because they're brainwashed. Colin Boyce, you'll find it in the Hansard. Just Google it and it's there. He's the member for Flynn.